South Africa Global is the first and biggest private real estate developer in the Gambia, with a presence in 7 other African countries. We are launching the development of the first smart and most modern office and retail towers in the Gambia, called TAF Twins, located in the heart of the Canifing institutional area and 10 minutes drive from Banjul. TAF Twins is designed to have 5 floors of office spaces ranging from 50 meters square to over 1,000 meters square, 2 elevators, central air conditioning, 24-hour electricity and water supply, with the ground floor reserved for banking, supermarket, restaurant and coffee shops. For your bookings and reservations, please call now on 376-2333 or 776-2333.
It's 8 p.m. in Banjul. This is GRTS News, broadcasting for viewers in the Gambia and around the world. Our top stories this hour. GRTS mourns the demise of its reporter, Buba SMCC, who passed away early Wednesday morning after a long battle with illness. Action Aid, the Gambia, together with partners, convened a day's caravan on electoral violence, monitoring, analysis, and mitigation in the Lower River region. Up to 14 youths from 3 regions across the country wrap up 2 months training on agricultural good practice. Away from home, South Africa's Commission of Inquiry investigating corruption practices during former President Jacob Zuma's presidency hands over its report to the state. And the World Health Organization warns the fast-spreading Omicron variant could trigger new and more dangerous strains, as it recommends 14 days of quarantine for COVID patients to reduce the high number of cases. Well, that's the top of the news and much more coming ahead with me, Momo Njai. Well, it's great to have you, and we begin this bulletin with this sad news. Well, it's a sad day for GRTS as the state broadcaster mourned the demise of one of our Senegal after battling a long illness. Well, until his demise, Buba Cisse, commonly known as SMCC, works under the News and Current Affairs Department as announcer, working in other program productions as well as coordinating the national language news on television. Buba SMCC is survived by a wife and a daughter. Usman Mane reports.
It was a shock and devastating moment as the news on the demise of Buba SMCC is announced at GRTS in the early hours of Wednesday. A staff under the News and Current Affairs Department, Buba, fondly called as SM by colleagues, passed away Wednesday morning in Casamance, Senegal, after battling a long illness. He started his journalism career since his days at Armitage High School.
So those who are watching are used to hearing the name Buba SMCC on GRTS News. It is indeed a sad news, and we really feel sad that it is coming untimely, because he was a very young man. Would have hoped that he would have lived longer, but as they say, God decides.
During his days as an English language teacher across different secondary schools in the country, the late SM trained dozens of youngsters to improve their writing, broadcasting, and public speaking skills. He worked with the Daily Observer before joining GR.
A very intelligent, very hardworking, very cooperative, very dedicated, and he had passion for the job. And no wonder he has never ever been found wanting in his assignments. For the 10 consecutive years he served GRTS, there has never ever been when Buba was given a warning or a memo or a cautionary note on the job.
The late SM is one of the most passionate who worked to the services of GRTS. The Director of News and Current Affairs and Principal Producer Babukar Cham knew him since the days of Gambia College.
Buba obviously will be one of those people who will be remembered for their dedication to service, their selflessness, their commitment, and their discipline. Discipline is very important. You cannot build a nation if you don't have disciplined personnel. You can have whatever, you have PhD or whatever. If you are not well disciplined, you cannot be motivated. If you are not patriotic, you cannot contribute as we would like you to contribute to the development of the country. Buba has all those qualities. He was well disciplined, self-motivated. He had the desire, the ambition to do his job to the maximum, and he did so.
Buba is a friend. He's very humorous, pious, hardworking, and very jovial to all.
SM is someone who is easygoing and kept on motivating young ones in the newsroom to be better professionals in the interest of the nation. He shared his vast experience to colleagues, even outside the newsroom.
When we are on tour, SM will personally call me, honestly, and tell me, keep it up, because you are not moved by anything else. The reports you're sending are just excellent. Just keep it up.
Buba is SMCC is someone who is a charming and a loving brother, always ready to serve the institution whenever needed. He knows his job, and then he's always here on time, and then delivering to the expectation.
And he was the type that will always tap people on their back to give them that encouragement, even when things are not going the way it should be.
This is his usual spot where he does everything, his work. Indeed, we lost a brother. He's somebody who has been behind us, pushing us to work hard. Even when I was on tour, he will always call to check on us and give us that congratulatory messages as usual. Buba SMCC is survived by a wife, Salijaju, a senior producer at GRTS, and a child. Funeral service and burial would be held in Jambanjeli by 5 p.m. on Wednesday. Usman Mane, GRTS.
Meanwhile, the demise of the veteran reporter and a former teacher as hundreds of mourners gathered at the family house of the late Buba SMCC in Jambanjeli village to pay their last respect to the deceased, who many of them described as devoted Muslim that has great respect for human race. well, irrespective of the age and religious differences. Villagers and religious leaders like the Imam of Jambanjeli and Fajikunda, where the deceased is a resident, say Buba SMCC hardly skipped a prayer time at the mosque. They referred to him as someone who is so considerate of the religion and full of support to the neighbors. Co-workers at GRTS in their eulogy said the late Buba was a truthful and committed civil servant who always do his job with great passion. They described him as a devoted Muslim who always observed what the religion advised and avoid anything that is against the deen and humanity. The late Buba SMCC was later laid to rest in Jambanjeli. While we send our condolences to the family, we pray that Allah the Almighty have mercy on his soul and grant him Jannatul Firdaus. Moving on. The Gambia UK Forces Association on Wednesday presented 6 cartons of medical items to the Serekunda General Hospital at a ceremony at the hospital ground in Kanifing. The donated materials, as we hear in this report by Yore Jallo, includes 300 pairs of theatre shoes meant to complement government's effort in the health sector. Well, details in this report prepared by Usman Balde and read in our studios by Yore Jallo.
The donated medical items are brought to the Gambia by patriotic Gambians living in the United Kingdom who are currently serving or have served in the British Army. The materials are expected to play a great role, especially in the theatre and surgical wards of the hospitals. As a network in the United Kingdom set up by Gambian natives in the security sector in the UK was established in September 2021, meant to support each other as well as the Gambia to enhance socio-economic development.
You can't take us away completely from the equation here. How do we contribute? And this is part of the initiative that we came in. Our health sector requires help. And then we have members or well-wishers who have some medical items or kits, and they will want help. Perhaps they might struggle to do it as an individual. So we came with a kind of system or a procedure that we can put together and then to coordinate all these different items that are needed into one pot and then coordinate and present it to the people.
Suntu Ture, the Consular Gambian High Commissioner in the UK, acknowledged the excellent efforts and contribution of the Gambia UK Forces community, describing them as patriotic Gambians who are committed in complementing government's efforts in various sectors.
For us at the Gambia High Commission in London, our main job is to foster relations between the Gambia and the Gambians in the diaspora, and also bilateral countries that we are accredited. And these Gambia Armed Forces UK, where the Forces Community UK, these are Gambians. They have expertise in many fields, not just military, but in IT and many other fields. And they are willing to share their experiences and expertise with institutions here in the Gambia.
The administrator of the Serekunda General Hospital, Babukar Sen, used the opportunity to outline the numerous services rendered by the hospital to Gambians, especially children and women. He therefore hailed the donors for the gesture and assured that the donated materials will be properly utilized.
Development cannot happen in the absence of a healthy population. A healthy population drives the development of an institution. But again, this hospital and government alone cannot provide all the resources needed on a daily basis to save the lives of our people, to restore their health, and prevent them from developing disability.
The Gambia UK Forces community assured that similar gestures will be made to other hospitals within the Greater Banjul area, which is all geared towards contributing their quota to national development. For GRTS News, this is Yero Jallo reporting.
A media release from Gamtel, LRR correspondent Alajimbai tells us more.
Supported by the European Union, the caravan tour sought to promote peaceful coexistence among citizens at Wellingaraba, Soma and Quinella communities. The outreach, according to Fode Kanyi of Action Aid the Gambia, is in line with the project's objective on conflict and violence prevention and promoting peace-building initiatives across the country.
For us to go out and then consolidate the peace that Gambia is known for before the election and during the election and after election. Yes, we all agree that yes, there must be small issues here and there, which is not you cannot avoid that. But I'm sure just for it to escalate to conflict, we have to make sure that we build systems, and then we also conduct outreach programs where people will better understand their roles and responsibilities in maintaining peace in this country.
Kanyi called on people to continue to nurture peace and stability and respect the rule of law throughout the electoral cycle and afterwards.
National Assembly election is coming up. Area council election is coming up. My advice is we should still maintain the same trend from the presidential election. Our laws of the land is very clear in the redress mechanisms. If you are not satisfied with the outcome of any election, you have all rights to go to court and challenge the processes or challenge the result. That's very clear, and I think that should not be any problem in this country, because we want to build on the democracy that we have. We want to make it stronger, and so that people can have trust in our systems. So I believe that's in the right direction.
The representative of WANEP, Buakinte, described the caravan tour as timely in the aftermath of the recent presidential election. Mr. Kinte calls for continued peace and stability, saying it is the foundation for national development.
The significance of information is to share it. So when you are called, if you are called, and then those people should also disseminate the information to the wider community, so that Gambia, what Gambia is known for, remain as that, because peace is everybody's business, and we cannot do anything without peace. So the peace that the Gambia is known for, I am urging each and every one to maintain that peace, to rise above our partisan and ethnic interests, and ensure that the peace prevails in this country, so that we'll have a better Gambia, and then we rise above ethno-linguistic profiling.
Several other community leaders, including Chief Alhaji Yaya Jajusi of Jara West, the representative of the Alcalo of Soma, Abubakar Dabo, and Alcalo Lamin Manjang of Quinala, all thanked the organizers for the initiative and advised people to maintain peace and respect the rule of law for sustainable peace and national development. Alhaji Mbaye, GRTS News.
The National Agriculture Research Institute has wrapped up 2 months training on agricultural good practices for 14 youths in 3 regions. The program seeks to improve production and productivity. Our regional correspondent in the Central River region, Mutlamin Sane, reports.
For 2 months, these 14 youths from Lower, Central and North Bank regions have been going through an intensive training on good agricultural practices by the National Agricultural Research Institute. The focus here is on production, soil management, and water harvesting, with an objective to improve rice and groundnut yields, as well as soil fertility.
These are very important aspects if you look at commodity, value chain, especially on production, because you cannot improve production if you don't know how to improve some of your production practices and which method you need to employ to be able to get that. So that's why it's very important.
The Agricultural Production Training Program is spearheaded by the International Trade Center, which aims to boost the rice and groundnut value chain.
Any crop that is newly introduced into this country, we will conduct research on it. At times it will take us 3, even more than that, about 4 or 5 years, we will conducting research on one particular type of crop to try to find out all the good ways, all the good agronomic practices which one has to put in place to be able to get the potential yield that come with a passport data. Because one needs to employ all those good agronomic practices to be able to close the yield gap.
More efforts have been invested to educate farmers as climate change takes a toll on agricultural production.
At times, you would cultivate a particular crop. it will go up to a certain period during the rainy season. Rain would cease for 5 to or more than 5 days. So what do you do? So there are strategies put in place. You can conduct what is called water harvesting to make sure that if you know where runoff is taking place in your farm, you create channels whereby you can be able to harvest part of that water. So when these issues arises, you can be able to fall back onto some of those water and irrigate your farm.
Wrapping up this significant training in Sapo, participants were handed over certificates of participation as officials moved to improve farmer education and agricultural production. Modula Minsane reporting for GRTS News from the Central River region.
GRTS News live with me, Momodinjai. We'll take a quick break and return with international news. Stay tuned.
Di fiixal, di dalal, di relax ni mu la neexee, di wetale kook kaasi Sunquick juice bu sedd guy. Sunquick juice ànd ak cafka amelo boppam, am na cafka cocktail lépp ci biir, am na cafka orange lépp di saf biir gi ci juice ak neex gi mu àndal. Dama ne Sunquick juice ak kasakan pour bépp xew-xewi jamono mun ngeen ko amee ca makkaan gu mag ca Banjul 61 Lehman Street wala ca Caravan Avenue ak bépp supermarket ak boutique ci biir réew mi. Teggil tëgga 924-4331 wala 244-2485 moji dama ne di fiix.
Welcome back. Time now to look at other news making headlines around the world. And now to South Africa. The Commission of Inquiry into State Capture has handed over the first part of its report to President Ramaphosa. The Commission was tasked with the responsibility of investigating the corruption during former President Jacob Zuma's presidency. It has testimonies from hundreds of witnesses detailing their account over events in terms of how the state was captured. Well, state capture refers to the way the private individuals and companies illegally influence the state institutions to do their own bidding. CGTN has more.
Almost 4 years to the day since the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture started, Chairperson Judge Raymond Zondo handed the first of 3 reports to President Cyril Ramaphosa. The first part of the report is divided into 3 volumes. The first volume deals with corruption at the country's national airline, the South African Airways. It also targets the findings on the Gupta family who owned the New Age newspaper. The New Age newspaper was allegedly used to secure advertising and sponsorship from the state-owned government communication and information system. The Guptas are a wealthy family with origins from India. The family have been accused of meddling in state matters during former President Jacob Zuma's presidency. The third volume deals with the capture of the South African Revenue Services. Zuma set up the commission himself in 2018 after an order from the High Court in Pretoria. Both Zuma and Ramaphosa testified at the commission.
This is what I would call a defining moment in our country's effort to definitely end the era of state capture and to restore the integrity, and credibility, and the capability of our institutions, but more importantly, our government.
The Commission of Inquiry heard testimony from hundreds of witnesses who spoke out about corruption during former President Zuma's 2 terms between 2009 and 2019.
The most, I said, devastating and lasting cost of state capture and corruption is the effect on the confidence of the people of South Africa in the leaders and the officials in whom they place great trust and responsibility. State capture has damaged people's confidence in the rule of law, in public institutions, in law enforcement agencies, and even to some extent in the democratic process. That is what makes the work of this commission so essential.
2 more installments of the report are expected before those implicated are likely to be prosecuted. Acting Chief Justice Raymond Zondo stated that the second part of the report will be available at the end of January, while the third and last installment of the report will be presented at the end of February. President Ramaphosa has indicated that he will step aside from the implementation of the Zondo Commission recommendations should he be implicated in allegations of state capture.
An official from the World Health Organization, WHO, has warned of the risk of newer, more dangerous COVID variant. Senior Emergency Officer Catherine Smallwood said the fast spreading of Omicron could trigger a new variant. Smallwood said the world is in a very dangerous phase as infection rate rise very significantly. She also warned that Omicron could pose greater threat because of the shared number of cases. On Tuesday, one WHO official said the organization still recommends 14 days of quarantine for COVID patients, adding that a longer quarantine time could help keep cases as low as possible in countries with low infection. The South Korean Joint Chief of Staff said the Democratic People's Republic of Korea has fired an unidentified projectile into waters of its eastern coast. South Korean Yonhap News Agency said the country is holding an emergency meeting to discuss a Pyongyang missile attack. Japan also announced it will hold talks with the U.S. on Friday to discuss security issues. CGTN has more from Seoul.
Officials still calling it a unidentified projectile, but the very fact that the Joint Chiefs of Staff here sent out a text message to reporters early morning indicates that it is something serious. They only ever do that if it is a ballistic missile or some new type of weapon that is significant. It comes just after a key Workers' Party meeting in the DPRK wrapped up on New Year's Eve that ended with a statement talking about the growing instability, the security instability on the Korean Peninsula, and the need to continue greatly expanding the DPRK's weapons arsenal. Seoul and Washington, as we know, have been reaching out to the DPRK to try and restart talks, but they say so far they've had no reply. Now, the Joint Chiefs of Staff meeting at the moment to try and get a better idea of what kind of weapon this was. We know the military is on alert for any potential further tests throughout the day. And they're going to be looking, is this a new weapon? That something like we saw last year when we saw hypersonic missiles, cruise missiles, train-launched ballistic missiles, submarine-launched ballistic missiles, many new types of weapons from the DPRK tested. Or is this going to be, one of the old weapons? And through getting some insight into this, they'll be able to figure out, is this is a new weapon test? If it is a sign that the DPRK perhaps wants to come to the negotiating table, raise the stakes by firing an old type of weapon, or is this just something part of the DPRK's winter military exercises, which often happen around this time of the year?
Show of support, the European Union Foreign Policy Chief has kick-started his official visit to the former Soviet Union Republic. Well, he's there to talk with Ukraine Foreign Minister to address the build-up of the Russian military near the country's border. This Friday, NATO foreign ministers will hold a virtual emergency meeting to discuss the crisis. Well, this will be followed by talks with officials from the US and Russia in Geneva, Switzerland on Sunday. Meanwhile, a meeting with NATO Russia has been cancelled till next week. We'll take another short break. The news continues momentarily. And now, before we end this newscast, a look once again in our top stories. GRTS is mourning the demise of its reporter Buba SMCC, who passed away early Wednesday morning after a long battle with illness. Action Aid International de Gambia, together with partners, has convened a day's caravan on electoral violence monitoring, analysis and mitigation in the Lower River region. Up to 14 youths from 3 regions across the country has wrapped up 2 months training on agricultural good practices. Away from home, South Africa's Commission of Inquiry investigating corruption practices during former President Jacob Zuma's presidency has handed over its report to the state. And the World Health Organization has warned the fast-spreading Omicron variant could trigger new and more dangerous strains, as it recommends 14 days of quarantine for COVID patients to reduce the high number of cases. Well, that does it for this edition of the News at 8. Do join us at 2200.